Okay, this video is called Listen Once and Manifest. So all you have to do is just write it down. But I'm going to explain to you this, how you can just listen once to your manifestation and essentially it is therefore true. But I'm going to explain it from an internal aspect first. So manifestation firstly is the definition of shifting internally and not being emotionally dependent on seeing your reality change externally. So internally, you have to assume you are now the version of yourself that is desired and already done what you desire. Now you say, okay, how am I this version? So this version of yourself, I'm going to explain to you now. So you have to write down the version of yourself you want to be. Now, once you've written down this version of yourself is a new identity. The new identity is a new frequency. The new frequency creates new results, which creates new actions, new effects through the new results. But it starts internally through the new frequency, which is the new identity, which is just a new version of yourself that you've written down. So this is how you listen once and manifest. If you see me looking around there, it's my whiteboard. Okay, so I'm going to explain it to you through effortlessness. So I'm going to explain it to you through a way of effortlessness. So if you can attach your desired reality and say that it feels effortless and all of it feel effortless and assume it felt effortless, because the subconscious obeys, you're therefore telling it. And because you're assuming the law of assumption, to assume something to be true is therefore true in your subconscious. So once you assume something, it's already happened. So you then, once you have written your desired reality down, that's the shift internally. Now you assume you already identify as that version of yourself now, because you're that version of yourself now, you then just ask, how would that version of myself do the thing? So how was that version of myself doing this? And now, because you're operating from that version of yourself, essentially the visualization and rehearsal of the memory of someone congratulating you for what you've done, this is now in the past because you're operating from the version of yourself. So that's already done this manifestation. So because you're operating from the version of yourself that's already done this, you're embodying essentially that version of yourself already currently, because you currently identify as it internally. So now reality therefore has to catch up to you. I'm going to explain it in an effortless way so you can understand manifestation, but from an easy, effortless standpoint. So effort is the problem. And what I mean by this is people believe that you must try harder, work more, and that struggle equals success. So they attach struggle to success in the sense of they think they have to go through a struggle, or they think they have to go through what they call like a bummy phase, and then there's success after that, and like they got it from the mud in a sense. When you can do this, but you don't essentially need to, because your reality, once you identify as it, it's already happened, it's already taken place because you assume so. So once you identify as it and then embody and visualize this version of yourself internally, it's therefore already taken place. So the state of already happening, live from the end, not toward it. So what I mean is, once you then write down your desired reality, write down that you assume this is already true and that you're living the end result of that. So of this. So write of this. And because it's of your desired reality, you are now essentially living from the end point of your desired reality. So therefore, after you've written it, you then ask yourself, how did I then do whatever I done next from this version of myself? And because you're free, essentially, applying the sense that you are free and saying to yourself, I am free, and the law of liberty by Neville Goddard, by explaining to yourself that you are free and having this concept of if you was free, design your now internal heaven, but from your concept. So how you would do it, and then write down that version, the free version of yourself internally, free version of you, no limitations, and what you would then, let's say, have your dream house and your dream car or whatever, and then have a visualization of you feeling like you're fulfilled and already in your house internally, already in your dream house and in your dream car internally. Whatever the 5 to 10 second memory is, just make sure it's someone you know or someone that, let's say, desired you in this memory and they congratulated you or something. And you could add physical contact from them to make it more, so there's more touch, to make the visualization more real. And essentially, because you're thinking as if it's already true and assuming it's already true, and then embodying the version of yourself that assumes this is already true, you're doing what you wrote in the letter, which is living from the end result of this. And because you're living from the end result of this, that means the letter has already taken place, or the manifestation has already taken place. Therefore, you are already your desired reality. So you already are the manifested version of yourself. As long as you just consciously are then aware of how does this version of myself then go about things. And because you're the new version of yourself internally, the new identity, therefore there's a new frequency. The new frequency creates new results. The new results create new effects. The new effects create new opportunities. The new opportunities create a new life. Because, again, internally your new identity has a new self-worth, a new self-concept, new likes, new dislikes, let's say. So, because this version of yourself internally has more self-worth and, let's say, more belief in itself and is a better version of itself, therefore your reality will be a better version of your reality, because internally your reality has changed for the better. So externally your reality has also changed for the better. But you just have to be conscious and aware of it at all times, that you are internally this free, desired version of yourself. And then remember the visualization. So you can say to yourself, when you look left, you saw, let's say, the beach. When you looked right, you saw your neighbor's balcony. When you looked behind you, you saw your partner or your significant other congratulate you and then kiss you and say well done. So because, let's say, this is the visualization and you're now living from the end result of this, for example, because you then do this from an effortless aspect, it makes it even quicker, because everything you have in abundance from this free version of yourself, this abundant version of yourself, this prosperous version of yourself. The free version of yourself, essentially, you already have everything that you wrote down, because, again, you're living from the end result of this. So with the law of assumption, you're assuming that what you've written down, because you're living the end result of it, it's already taken place, therefore it has. And everything you have in abundance. So therefore, this takes place in abundance. So then you don't attract, you become. So if you are to say you are loved, you then don't go and try to attract love. You embody and now identify as being loved. So therefore, you already have love. So again, you now assume you are loved and now live as that version of yourself that's loved. And again, the new internal creates, the new identity creates a new internal, which is a new frequency, which creates new results, which creates new effects. New effects create new opportunities, but it starts all internally first. I'm just explaining this again from an effortless aspect. And again, I'm not no teacher or co-leader, I'm just a student and also interested in manifestation, but explaining it from my sense, so my perspective to you in the simplest way possible. Now, once you have attracted this and you now are that and understand you embody that version of yourself, Essentially now this has already taken place because you assume it has. So now the world is you pushed out. So in a sense of that internal new version you assume is now you, which it is. The world now reflects that. So how people treat you reflects your self-concept. Opportunities reflect your expectations. So if you have great expectations, you'll have great opportunities. If you have low expectations, let's say, you might have low opportunities if you've chosen that to be a belief in your subconscious. Repeated patterns reflect your identity. So imagination is the creative power. What you vividly imagine and feel as real, like I said, feeling the visualization, and then also imagining it at the same time, now embodying the version of yourself that's already done it. This is then reality because it feels so real that it then becomes real. And again, that's a law of assumption. You're assuming that because it was so real, it's taken place, therefore it has taken place. So the subconscious accepts imagined experiences as real, which I literally just said. So the subconscious accepts what you imagine and emotionally intensify with experiences as real. The subconscious can't tell the difference. You can logically, but the subconscious can't. So you need to operate from the subconscious part of yourself, not the logical part of yourself. So it reshapes perception and behavior. Reality reorganizes accordingly. So that's how it all starts internally. The subconscious accepts what you imagine and experience emotional intensity as real. Then it reshapes perception and behavior, and reality pushes it back out and it reorganizes accordingly to your inner state. Which is why if you operate and assume that you are always operating from the inner state of yourself, that's the desired version of yourself you are, because this is what you identify as now. So you don't need to then worry about if you are this version of yourself, because you already are. So then feeling is the secret to effortlessness. So you don't need intense emotion, you don't need excitement. It's naturalness and certainty, and then detaching from it. So once you know that you are now assuming that you are at the end result of your desires, you then know that of course this is true because you're used to it. So of course this is true. And then returning to the state gently, not fighting reality and not stressing about time. So essentially you knowing that because you're this internally, you know reality has to catch up to you externally. You are now not trying to change nothing in reality. You're just, the things you're changing in reality is you're remembering how you got there by saying, how is that version of myself doing things from this point onwards, from this result already happening? And because you're operating from that version of yourself, it therefore takes place, and all the events take place leading up to that manifestation or vision that you had. So then time is a byproduct. It's not a barrier. Time is a byproduct, not a barrier. So assume it's done and let time catch up to you. So time has to catch up to your desires and your manifestations. But you have to assume it's done. It's already done, and because you're now assuming it's already done, you then drop the how, because like I said, you already assume that this has been done. So you then don't worry about how it's done because it's already been done, essentially. So the how is not your job to know. You define the end. So as in you define the end result of it, you feel the end result of it, assume it's real, and then now that you assume it's real and you're operating from that version of yourself, you then identify it as that version of yourself, and your life matches who you believe you are. So you will then be that version of yourself because you assume you're that version of yourself. And because you now assume you're that version of yourself, your life matches who you believe you are. And you believe you're that version by assumption. So Therefore, the assumption takes place. Therefore, you are them. Well, not them. You are your desired reality, but it then just takes place in reality. But internally, you have to know and detach from your certainty of knowing that you are your desired reality. So you don't need to keep repeating it or keep checking, because this signals lack and worry. And this actually somewhat delays the manifestation, because you're somewhat now focused on it, which is repelling it. You have to be detached and know that once you've said it, you know this to be true. Like I said, assume it's real, and then assume it's done. And then after that, like you said, let time catch up. And once time catches up, then you see it unfold. And then you just operate, like I said, once you now write your desired reality and know you are this version and feel it intensely and have this visualization now, which visualization is just getting into a state of relaxation for 5 to 10 minutes. Depends on the person personally actually, but just getting into a state of relaxation and then visualizing something, and then emotion intensifying with the thought and putting emotion into it. And you could do stuff like feel, touch, and put senses into it. And yeah, but it's easier to assume that it's just a quick 5 to 10 seconds thing, because that makes like I was saying, that makes it more vivid. That makes the imagination more vivid, and you remember all parts of it because it's a quick but vivid image or vivid scene that you keep replaying. And now you assume that this has already been done and that version of yourself has already taken place. It therefore has, because it's now true. So once you then operate from that version of yourself, yeah, you then already are your desired reality from that moment on. Reality just then catches up to you, and you have to be certain and detached from your certainty. You don't need to check for nothing. Now you know that you identify as that version of yourself, and identity is everything. The universe will reflect it because you identify as that version of yourself and assume you're that version of yourself. Therefore you are, and that version of yourself is therefore taking place.